this is a pass-through charge, and Meralco is just collecting from the consumers whatever it is supposed to pay.
Last Monday, the Energy Regulatory Commission, or ERC, approved Meralco's petition to increase its power rate by 4 pesos and 15 centavos per kilowatt hour. This is the highest power rate hike in Philippine history, where more than 24 million consumers will be affected. This increase also places the Philippines as the second country with the highest electricity rate in Asia. The increase translates to an additional 482 pesos to those households and businesses consuming at least 200 kilowatts per hour.
Tulad nga nung sinabi namin, ito ay bunga ng shutdown ng Malampaya pipeline.
Meralco justified the increase due to the scheduled maintenance shutdown of Malampaya, where a majority of its generated power is coming from, and other power generators that undergo power shortages and outages. But consumer rights groups do not believe such reasons. Militant groups held a lights-off protest today, December 13th, by turning off their lights to show dismay over the recent power hike. Welcome to Opposing Views, a hard, straightforward discussion of today's most pressing issues. Electricity has become a staple commodity in our daily lives, but through time, it has also become a valuable purchase. Tonight, we will discuss the recent decision of the Energy Regulatory Commission, or ERC, to approve the highest power rate increase in Philippine history. We'll weigh in the public's right to protection against exorbitant and unreasonable power increases and the merit of such decision. Our question for tonight: is the recent 4 peso 15 centavo per kilowatt hour power rate hike justified? Good evening, I'm Rod Nepomuceno, and this is Opposing Views. All right, joining us tonight in our discussion, Executive Director of the Energy Regulatory Commission, Attorney Francis Juan. Attorney Francis, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. All right, can you give us your 2 cents worth, your quick comments on this topic that we have tonight?
Just to comment on the topic, first, ERC did not approve any rate increase of 415. What ERC approved is the staggered implementation by Meralco of its generation charge increase for the December 2013 billing.
All right. So do you have for the increase in general? You think it's justified?
For the increase in Meralco's generation charge, if it is supported by the power bills that it received from its suppliers,
right,
which power bills were based on the approved power supply agreements between Meralco and its distributors, and from the power bill coming from the WESM, and that power bill is supported by the actual prices in WESM during the time Meralco purchased or procured from WESM, then if all these are factored into its calculation, as far as the proposed increase by Meralco of 3.44 in its generation charge, yes, if it is in accordance with the formula that is prescribed by ERC to be used by all distribution utilities in the calculation of their generation charge for their monthly billings to their customers.
All right. With us also is Representative Antonio Tino. Congressman, welcome again.
Good evening.
Good
Thank
evening.
you.
Your 2 cents worth on this topic?
Well, in answer to the question, I believe, as do many Filipino consumers, the highest power rate hike in history is not justified. Because if government, specifically the ERC, can say this is justified, and the power industry can get away with anything.
All right. Okay, so we'll start that question. That question that you brought forth. Is it justified? Kasi I mean, and I'll throw the first question to you, Attorney Francis Juan. Of course, Executive Director of the ERC. A lot of people, you were mentioning words such as WESM. I guess for the benefit of our televiewers, maybe we should explain what these terms are, no? The power bill and all that, the power bill and the passing on. Perhaps you can go step by step. How does Meralco, or let's say all the distribution utilities, come up with these price increases or proposed price increases, and then how do you go about approving it, thus making it a justified increase?
Meralco and other distribution utilities, they get their power from generation companies, and whatever imbalance they have, they get it from the wholesale electricity spot market,
Which is WSM.
For the power procured by the distribution utilities from generation companies, they have to enter into power supply agreements. And these power supply agreements under Section 45 of EPIRA will have to be submitted to ERC for approval. Meralco has entered into several power supply agreements with various generation companies, and these were submitted to ERC. ERC actually conducted hearings on these applications for approval of the power supply agreements and rendered its decision on these applications. So as far as this process is concerned, there's due notice and hearing and decision by ERC. As far as the purchases of the distribution utilities from WSM, whatever is the pricing in WSM, that gets to be the price that the distribution utilities will have to pay to WSM for the power that they procure from WSM.
Now, this WSM, is it, you say it's a wholesale energy?
Yes,
Sorry?
it's
Spot
a
market.
market, a spot market.
It's market, right?
Yes,
It's a market.
where the generators, they can offer their electricity in the spot market and they can name their price.
Okay.
And if they
Just like any other market. You know,
yes,
like
and
your-
if they
like
get
your-
dispatched because the demand will require them to run and provide energy, then whatever will be the clearing price will be the price in Western.
So this is separate from, Bali, there are two ways. One is that I have supplier agreements with these power
Yes.
generators, and will have some kind of fixed price or agreed price, right?
There's an agreed price, but usually
right.
there are indexation formulas and other provisions that will make the price not really constant over the life of the contract.
But at least more stable because you have a kind of an agreement.
Yes,
Diba?
yes,
But then
that's
you
it.
you also have, when they don't want to get it from, or let's say the power generators can't provide them the power supply, then they go through WSM.
Yes, and in
Yeah.
WSM, the prices are more volatile.
Yeah,
It will
'cause
reflect
it's-
the actual condition in the market, the actual condition of supply and demand.
All right. Okay. So you're saying that if basically if Meralco and other distribution utilities are able to justify where they got the cost of their power, and they can justify, they'll request for an increase in rates based on this, then it's justified. That's what you're saying. ERC will just approve it, right?
Yes, the distribution utilities, they have also the obligation to procure in the least cost manner their generation. And they can show that by, by procuring from the generation companies competitively. They can tender a bid for the generators to actually offer them the best price.
Okay.
But notwithstanding that contract that they enter with the generation companies, they still have to submit that to ERC for approval.
Okay.
But for WSM, that's really they're regulated now. It's beyond the price fixing authority of ERC.
ERC, okay.
So,
It's beyond the ERC. All right. Representative Tino, the justification is that it's based on, I guess, their cost. No? Just like any other, parang retailer, di ba? You have a cost of supply, then you pass it on to the retailer. Justified ba yan for, in other words, does that justify Meralco and all the DUs, the distribution utilities, to increase by this much?
Yeah, let me mention a few facts. No, first there was the Malampaya shutdown,
Right.
which forced some major sources of power from major suppliers of Meralco to use more expensive fuel.
Because of that
rather than
shutdown,
the
the
natural
supply
gas.
is less, diba?
Oo.
The supply is
So
less,
isang
so therefore
factor
the price
yun.
higher. Yeah.
But then the 70% of the increase that's being passed on to consumers now is actually accounted for by only 11.5% of the electricity supplied to Meralco. And that 11.5% was the electricity purchased through the WSM.
All right.
No.
So only 11%. You're saying 11% of the 70%? Is that correct?
No, 11% of the electricity
Okay.
that we're paying
We're
for
paying-
now
Okay. All right.
accounts for 70% of the increase. No?
Okay.
And this is because during the period of the Malampaya shutdown, it's basically a 1-month period. the price of the spot price of electricity skyrocketed. No, so before the shutdown, it was something like 13 pesos per kilowatt hour on average. But then during this crisis, it shot up to an average of 33 pesos per kilowatt hour.
Wow.
No, and that's an average. Umabot pa yan, it reached the cap, yung maximum, no, which is 62 pesos per kilowatt hour. No? So, and according to information provided by PEMC, the Philippine Energy Market Corporation, which administers the WESM, the price was, according to them, the price was largely dictated by three suppliers. No, according to them, they named specifically the Limay Combined Cycle Plant, the Bawang Diesel Plant, and Therma Mobile.
So three parties dictated this price.
Those are the words of
Okay.
of PEMC to the committee during the hearing. No.
Okay.
So this is what we expect that ERC should be looking into.
Watch out for.
So now our concern is that the position of ERC seems to be our function is purely ministerial. There's a formula and there are procedures, and if they comply with the formula, then we approve. No. On the other hand, even in the IPIRA, it says that the ERC has the duty and responsibility to monitor and take measures to discourage and penalize abuse of market power, cartelization, and any anti-competitive or discriminatory behavior by any electric power industry participant.
Now, I'd like to pause at that point. I'd like to pause that. That's a very good point. But at this point, we need to take a short break. Meanwhile, join the discussions online. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/SolarOpposingViews. Follow us also on Twitter at opposing_views. Use the hashtag OVPowerHike. We'll be right back. Please don't go away. All right, welcome back. You're still watching Opposing Views. We are talking about the recent power rate increase approved by the ERC, or the Energy Regulatory Commission. We have with us Executive Director of the ERC, Attorney Francis Juan, and ACT Teachers Representative Antonio Tino. We asked tonight, is the recent 4 pesos 50 centavo per kilowatt hour power rate hike justified? And, right before the break, Congressman Tino, you were talking about 3 power generators that were in effect kind of dictating the price. No? I guess that's one of the things I wanted to also center on. No? Is that with those 3 power generators and Meralco in itself, no? Kasi it's been said that Meralco can actually dictate its price. No? So I guess my question is, when the price of something as important as electricity can be dictated on by very few parties, is this an equitable or fair situation? You first.
That's the policy that was adopted by government when it passed EPIRA into law. No, generally to leave electricity to the private sector. No, unbundling it and then leaving some regulation to government, but generally in a privatized and deregulated environment. And the promise was that with EPIRA we would have lower, cheaper electricity prices because of the magic of the market forces.
Yeah, it's privatization.
But the reality is we have the highest electricity rates in the world, some say now.
Okay. Attorney Francis, your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree. That was the objective of EPIRA, but right now we're seeing some of the problems also when you'd have you leave it with market, and so you need some form of monitoring.
Yeah.
As far as ERC, yes, we agree also that we have that mandate under Section 45 to monitor the WSM and penalize market power abuse if there is any. But we have to follow a process of determining whether or not there was indeed market power abuse. We cannot just say because the prices went up, immediately conclude already that there was market power abuse and penalize already whoever set these prices. We have to go through the process. And right now, an investigation is ongoing to determine the facts and see if there is really basis to proceed with prosecuting whoever should be prosecuted by reason of their conduct or behavior last supply month.
Now, there's a statement by Congressman Tino that ERC seems to be not doing its job. No, I'm sure you have some comment on that.
Yes.
Because you're supposed to protect precisely the consumers from arbitrary or maybe unfair
There's
increases,
a
no?
time lag also because we need information. And sometimes information is made available to us after already the trading happened. So we would be able to start our investigation once we have already completed the gathering and collating all the facts.
So after the fact. So Congressman Dino, yun yung nangyayari. Mukhang nangyayari is that it's only after.
Oh.
And parang there's already been an increase and there's already been I guess a proposal for an increase. Before the ERC can actually come in and make recommendations and
Well,
make a
mukhang
decision.
may problema na nga dun sa sistema because they approve
Yeah.
and then it's only after the approval that they say they'll conduct an investigation.
Yeah.
In the meantime, napasa na sa mga consumers and this December, consumers will, won't exactly have a happy Christmas because of the very significant increase in
Because
in
it's
electricity.
4 pesos. I mean, usually it's like a few centavos, And normally a few centavos of increase, minsan minsan binabaliwala pa ng mga tao, parang okay. But 4 pesos and 15 centavos per kilowatt hour, that's quite a hefty increase. I mean, it's almost unconscionable, di ba? Especially at this time, Tama, Christmas time.
The approval is not for the rate increase but for the staggering.
The staggering.
But anyway, the distribution utilities,
In other words, it's only for the
maybe-
staggering. Yung sa price increase, wala kayong say at all.
because there is a mechanism that the distribution utilities follow where they can actually recover their actual generation cost incurred for the previous month by adjusting their generation charges based on the formula that
So
was
you're saying that
prescribed to them.
we should even thank Meralco and the DU because they advanced some of the cost?
no.
Is that correct?
What will happen if there is no such recovery mechanism? The distribution utilities will be forced to advance the payment to their suppliers and then go to ERC to seek approval, which may take time. In the meantime, they have already advanced the payment and they are incurring cost for that amount that they have advanced. So this recovery, this mechanism only allows for timely recovery, but that doesn't mean that there is no confirmation or verification process that happens as part of the process, because in the generation charge adjustments implemented by distribution utilities, after every 3 years, all their adjustments will be looked into
And reviewed.
and ERC will review if there was basis, if they were justified in their implemented
So
adjustments.
after 3 years pa? After 3 years
Yes,
pa yan?
yes, after
So,
3 years.
Congressman, you agree with that? After 3 years pa nila ma-review yung basically question the increase?
Well, yun nga yung problema natin with these rules, no? Even now, in the congressional hearing, we were provided with some, information that should immediately be investigated by ERC with regard to the WSM and what happened, the pricing in the WSM.
Yeah.
Sabi ng PEMC, the maximum price of 62 pesos per kilowatt hour cleared even during low demand and Sundays. No? So low demand and Sundays, pero yung maximum price
62.
nabenta tas yan yung pinasa ngayon, no? So para sa akin, kailangan ng imbestigahan yon, and we don't have a framework. We shouldn't be working on a framework of 3 years.
Right.
No?
Now, a lot
Right
of people are actually shouting, di ba? Oh, yes.
No, let me just explain.
Sorry,
The
Francis.
period of confirmation covers 3 years. But if there is any adjustment in the generation cost of the distribution utility, say within that period, it gets reflected right away. That is also the beauty of the mechanism whereby if there is any ordered price reduction or because of any investigation, the result of any investigation, prices in WESM will be recalculated or adjusted, then that will translate to a lower cost for the distribution utilities.
Automatic.
And once they get
Automatic
that
law.
rebate or refund, they get to refund that also to their customers right away. And they don't have to wait for 3 years or during the confirmation.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question, but I kind of know the answer. But too high? Definitely too high. 4 pesos 50 centavos per kilowatt hour.
Well,
thoughts?
sabi nga, historically, this is the highest increase ever imposed. Definitely, it's too high.
Yeah.
The price of electricity in the country is already too high compared to our Asian neighbors, and we're a poor country. Add this increase, definitely it's too high.
Attorney Francis, is it too high or is it justified because of the mechanisms you mentioned?
Well,
I guess you have to wear two
these
hats.
These are two different things.
You're a consumer.
Justified and my own personal take on it as being too high. But
Because you're a consumer, right? You find
yes,
it. You
I
find
am a
it too- you
consumer
find it-
and
you
I'm
find it
also
quite high.
supposed to pay that
Yes.
at that rate.
You-
As far as the question of is it justified, well, again, the principle is a full recovery of prudent and economic cost. That is the cost, and that should be the rate, then so be it. But that doesn't mean that 450, there has already been a determination that is reasonable because, as I said, there will still have to be a confirmation, which happens after the adjustments have already been implemented.
After that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you mentioned the staggered hike. Diba? Staggered hike. Now, for the benefit of the televiewers, diba? Explain to us this staggered. So, the way I see it and understand it as an ordinary consumer is that basically if it's 3 pesos or 4 pesos or what have you,
Yes.
it's going to be increasing every month until fully it reaches that level of,
Yes,
of increase.
of that 415, 344 actually goes to the generation charge adjustment. And what the ERC approved was the staggering of that 3.44 into 3 months. The first tranche would be in December, where Meralco will be implementing a 2 peso adjustment on top of its previous month's generation charge. Then for February, it will be adding to its generation charge 1 peso,
1 peso.
and then for March, the balance on the 344.
Congressman Tino, this staggering, do you think this helps a bit?
Well, I think the more important thing is for ERC to, first of all, establish whether or not there was some sort of abuse of market power, cartel-like behavior.
Like collusion? Amongst the,
Yes,
the power
exactly.
players?
I mean,
Because that's being talked about.
We were told that 3 players dictated the price on the spot market. No,
Right.
what does ERC make of that? No, very high prices, the peak prices, even during periods of low demand. What does ERC make of that?
Alright.
It's part of their mandate, to protect the public against cartel-like behavior or collusion.
So they should be-
manipulating the market. It's part of their mandate to regulate the operation of the,
You're saying rather
the
than
spot market.
rather than just making it soft on the consumers, they should
Exactly.
investigate further.
So it's not enough to just let's just stagger it to soften the blow.
All right. All right. We'll need to take a short break. Meanwhile, join the discussions online. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/SolarOpposingViews. Follow us also on Twitter at opposing_views. Use the hashtag OVPowerHike. We'll be right back. Please don't go away. Welcome back. You're still watching Opposing Views. We're talking about the recent power rate increase approved by the ERC, or the Energy Regulatory Commission. We have with us Executive Director of the ERC, Attorney Francis Juan, and Representative Antonio Tino. And the question is, the 4 peso 15 centavo per kilowatt hour increase, power hike increase, is it justified? Now, before we took a break, we were talking about collusion, no? And then to some extent, I see it, at least in my mind as a consumer. Before we only had 3 brands, diba, no, among oil companies, diba, gas companies. We had Caltech, Shell, and Petron. And at the time, we were, at least as consumers, we were thinking, is there parang collusion because there were just 3 players kind of dictating the price, no? And now we have a situation wherein where there are X number, or like only a few power generators that seem to be controlling the price, no? And I guess my question now is it possible, you think, that there is such a collusion? Is it possible at all that's happening, and whether you think the ERC should be really investigating in this?
Don't have to take it from me. The DOE representative, Yusek Aguiluz himself said it's possible. And in fact, DOE is investigating that possibility of collusion among power generators during this Malampaya shutdown period.
Do you think the stoppage of because some of the reason is that like Malampaya and these power distributors parang shut down, diba? They shut down for a while, thus kind of lessening the supply and thus increasing the demand.
My understanding is that Malampaya shutdown was is scheduled. So DOE was aware of that, but according to their statement, they were expecting an increase by about 1 peso something, no? Because of that, and they themselves were surprised that it reached up to 4 pesos. Over 4 pesos.
Francis, yeah?
That's correct. The earlier estimates provided us by Meralco was not that high.
Yeah.
When Meralco again reported to ERC its calculated generation charge, it went up. And ERC is coordinating already with the Department of Energy and the PEMC, the market operator, to look into the things that Congressman Tino had mentioned earlier on the price setters being these companies. So that will be part of the investigation.
And of course, checking why they're all shutting down at the same time, right?
Yes.
I mean,
yes, that's correct.
It sounds like a coincidence. Of course, they're saying it's a coincidence, but it doesn't sound like a coincidence, if you know what I mean. Now, let's talk about the EPIRA law. You think the EPIRA law has been successful in trying to prevent unjust hikes in power rates? You think what do you think about the EPIRA law and its I guess effectivity in protecting the consumers?
As far as the EPIRA law, it was successful in the transition from the state-owned generation into now the generation being in the private hands. But we have not yet seen the entry of more capacity, say in Luzon, by virtue of this privatization of generation. Maybe that can be traced to, of course, a lot of the delays in the timelines envisioned in EPIRA, such as the one for attaining retail competition and open access. So a lot of uncertainty. So investors were worried in investing in generation until all these uncertainties are clarified.
Now, your thoughts, Congressman Tino, on the EPIRA law?
Well, from the point of view of the private sector, the players in the power industry, EPIRA is a big success, because it has meant huge profits in generation, transmission, and distribution. But from the point of view of ordinary citizens, consumers, it's been a failure. Privatization of the power industry. It certainly hasn't delivered on the promise of lower prices. We have the highest prices. So our position has been EPIRA should be repealed. And the national government should think about returning to the to the power industry in a major way to secure our energy sources, our supply, and to protect consumers ultimately.
So you think the government should come in again
Yes.
to get involved?
I even hear the DOE talking about the need to, in a limited way, to come into power generation.
Right.
So that's not my view. My view is it should be it should come in a bigger way. But the point is, there's even an acknowledgement on the part of government that baka medyo mali yata na nag-hands off na totally ang gobyerno sa generation.
Right.
No?
Now, we were talking about Malampaya and its shutdown. So we mentioned Malampaya anyway. Some people are saying that Malampaya funds should help in buffering the impact of these price increases, these power rate increases, and help the consumers. Your thoughts on that, and then let's go to Attorney Francis.
I oppose that. First of all, there are legal questions. If you go back to the presidential decree on the use of Malampaya funds, it specifically mentions the funds should be used for energy exploration and
development, I think.
no, it's not development. And exploration of energy, something like that.
Right.
So
So
basically, it's
very specific.
parang oil exploration, something like that.
Right.
No. Unfortunately, in public discourse, government, Malacanang in particular, likes to use the term energy-related purposes.
Yes.
No, and because of that phrase, even the purchase of warship from the U.S.
It's justified.
is
It's being
justified.
okay.
No, kasi daw babantayan yung Malampaya. No, so may strict na gamit lang dapat ang Malampaya fund. Secondly, if there really is collusion or cartel type behavior exploiting the public, then it's not right to use the Malampaya funds, to basically subsidize this predatory behavior.
Attorney Francis, quick thoughts before
the
you take a
ERC
break.
has no official position on that.
Yeah.
What we are supposed to do, if that will materialize, that we have to just make sure that there is no double recovery by Meralco, that whatever will be provided by way of subsidy will not anymore be recovered from the consumers of Meralco.
From the
through
mechanism,
rates.
right?
Yes.
All right, we need to take a short break. Don't go away. When we come back, the results of our online poll on the issue and the final pitch of our guests. Stay tuned. You're watching Opposing Views. Welcome back. This is Opposing Views. I'm Rod Nepomuceno. We have with us Executive Director of the Energy Regulatory Commission, Attorney Francis Juan, and ACT Teachers Representative Antonio Tino. Our question for tonight is the recent 4 peso 15 centavo kilowatt per hour power rate hike justified? Now, you think, Attorney Francis, do you think that building more power plants is the solution to this problem? Because obviously right now, it seems, no, at least from my point of view, how I see the situation is that because of the low supply of power, because yun nga, nag-shutdown ng mga power generating companies natin. That seems to be dictating
Definitely.
that.
We have to add additional capacity because our plants are aging, but the demand is growing.
Yeah.
So whenever we will have this event of Malampaya and plus other shutdown of plants, we can see the supply going down and prices will definitely go up.
Congressman Tino, your thoughts? Do you think that's the solution? Build more power plants?
Well, yes, definitely. And as I said earlier, the state, no, the national government should also enter into power generation. No, that's the only way that the public can be protected from the profit-seeking behavior of
If you just leave it to the
power
private sector.
Yeah.
In other words, just leave it to the private sector.
Right now, what seems to be happening is because there's tight supply, they're exploiting it. They're exploiting the situation, no? And especially since we have rules in place, for instance, in WSM that really favor and that can be easily exploited by a few players, no? For instance, yung isang question, bakit ba sa WSM allowed na up to 62 pesos per kilowatt hour? Yung maximum na price, no? That's one reason why, we're paying such a high price now. Si Director mentioned na sa spot market ng Mindanao, magkano ba yung maximum doon?
The offer price cap is something like 32 pesos per kilowatt hour.
32 pesos per kilowatt hour lang. That would, have a dramatic impact
Automatically, no?
on
If you leave it to
the
market.
prices in WSM.
Right.
No,
Okay.
kung i-adjust yun. And my point is, that's up to ERC. They have a major say in, what the rules are in WSM,
And also the power supply agreements.
Exactly.
All right.
No.
All right. Now, quick question. The TRO. There's been a TRO that's filed or that's been planned to be filed. What are your thoughts on that?
We have not received any petition yet filed by any group that seeks the TRO. But well,
do you think it will prosper?
I cannot say.
Yeah, it can
Well,
be. Okay. What are your thoughts?
Actually, some of my colleagues in Congress as well are among those who are planning to file a petition in court to ask for a TRO on the price increase. Pero hindi pa na-file to.
Okay.
No? I understand there are some other
Parties
as well, who are planning the same.
Okay. And what do you think will be the implication of this? Should the TRO be implemented, or should the port
there is one issue.
issue a
then,
TRO?
then it will have to be complied with.
Yeah.
But we just have to take into account that this mechanism of adjusting the generation charge applies not just to Meralco but to all distribution utilities. So if there will be an injunction and the other distribution utilities will not be able to collect what they are supposed to pay,
Would have an impact on their operations.
that might impact on their operations.
All right. I'm gonna ask you gentlemen, to give your final words on this matter. We'll start off with you first, Attorney Francis, one of the REC. Just your final words on this issue.
As far as ERC is concerned, we are coordinating and cooperating with the Department of Energy and PEMC on the conduct of the ongoing investigation into WSM and the possible collusion of market participants to drive up the prices in WSM. So we hope to have a speedy resolution of the matter, and as soon as it is already finished, then of course a report will have to be rendered to the public.
All right. Congressman Tino?
Well,
Final words?
the highest price increase, this highest price increase is not acceptable to the public, and it's not justified as far as we're concerned. It proves once and for all, if it still needs to be proven, that privatization of the power industry and IPIRA are failures. And we can also see that ERC, as far as we're concerned, is not doing its job of protecting the public. No, because by law, sila na lang yung tagapagtanggol ng interes ng consumer, no, laban sa pribadong sektor. Pero walang nagawa para protektahan sa napakataas na increase na ito.
All right. Well, thanks to our guests. Thank you again, gentlemen, for coming over. Of course, we have the Executive Director of the Energy Regulatory Commission, Attorney Francis Juan. Thank you very much. And of course, ACT Teachers Representative Antonio Tino. Thank you, sirs. Now, since yesterday, we are doing an online poll to feel the pulse of the netizens. And here's the final result. Our question is the recent 4 peso 15 centavo per kilowatt hour power rate hike justified? For those who answered yes, 20%, and no, 80%. Thanks to those who participated online. And that's our opposing views for tonight. Tune in again next week for another bold and engaging discussion on the most relevant issues of today. I'm Rod Nepomuceno. Good night and God bless.